Hey ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to talk about the Panzerkampfwagen V. But before we do that, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Collin, I'm 17 years old, I am a history enthusiast. I really love learning stuff about history. I don't have a major in it or anything, but yeah, I would like to learn more as time progresses with you guys. And if I do have something wrong or something like that, please leave a comment in the comments. Telling me why I'm wrong, and of course all the feedback is appreciated. So today we're going to talk about the Panzerkampfwagen V or the Panther tank, the German Virgil, and we're going to check out if it's a bit overrated by the German propaganda or if it's actually as useful as most historians try to claim it is. The German medium tank came in use in 1943 by the Germans and remained in service till the end of the war. But the French army used the Panthers until 1949 in a limited evaluation period. The Panther's design had a very limited influence on the post-war tank development. The French post-war AMX-50 prototype was directly influenced by the Panther tank but never entered production. But according to defense consultant Stephen Zaloga, the Panther was arguably an influence to the modern main battle tanks. The Panther tank was Germany's direct reaction to the Soviet T-34 tank, which proved its capability on the Eastern Front. What you notice is that the Germans had some inspiration of the Allies and used the same angled armor technique on the Panther as they used on the T-34 and the M4 Sherman. When you compare that to the earlier German tanks, you can see that they don't have the same armor anglement, which made their effective armor less. The armor ranged from 16mm to 100mm, and the German medium tank weighed almost 45 tons, and only 25 tons shy of the KF-51 Panther Rheinmetall released recently. And it was heavier than the M26 Pershing and the Churchill heavy tank, and just a bit lighter than the IS-2 Soviet heavy tank. Its weight was heavier than some heavy tanks, but it was classified by the Germans as a medium tanks, although the Soviets and the British classified it as a heavy tank. It had the same engine as the Tiger I. It was a V12 petrol engine and its main gun was a Rheinmetall-Borsig 75mm. The only tank it had difficulties trying to penetrate is the IS series from the Soviet Union, the M4A3E2 Jumbo and the M26 Pershing from the Americans, and the later versions of the Churchill heavy tank. First it was the idea to make it a lighter tank, but then the leader of Germany wanted the tank to have more armor and a heavier gun. But not to make it as heavy as the Tiger I, they made the side and rear armor thinner, which didn't do it any favors at the front. According to one of my sources, you could easily penetrate the side of a Panther with a 76mm guns or higher. There are even stories which say that 7 Lend-Lease M3 light tanks knocked out 5 Panther tanks while only losing 2 of their own. The most common issues the Panther faced were fire in the engine department, transmission and final drive breakdowns. These were also very difficult to repair. The estimations of how many Panther tanks were produced during the war range from 5,000 to 7,000 roughly, which is a huge amount of armored tanks, which isn't a lot when you compare them to the M4 Sherman and the T-34 of the Soviet Union, because both of those tanks during wartime have been produced over 50,000. And these numbers will give you a huge advantage to tank battle. When you analyze several battles which happened, most of the time the tank company which fired first was the team who won. So also detection is your biggest advantage. In 1943, the Panther tank made its debut at the front lines at the Battle of Kursk, or better known as Operation Citadel. 20 Panther tanks got knocked out by the Soviet Union, and when the Soviet Union came to inspect the Panther tanks, they found that all the Panther tanks were knocked out by a round in the side or in the rear. Which really tells you something about the vulnerability of the side and rear armor of the Panther. This really is a huge design flaw in the protection of the crew in the Panther. In conclusion, the German Panther tank had flaws for sure. The side and rear armor were quite weak, it broke down a lot and caught fire as well. But all in all, it was a very useful tank. In my opinion, it was the best tank Germany had to offer at that time. With its high shell velocity, it was a danger to any tank near them. And with its 2 MG32s, it's also very deadly to any troops trying to knock out the Panther. But was it the best tank of the war? In my opinion, it wasn't. Thanks for watching, see you in the next video.